There she is. So this evening, to kick us off, we've got the lovely Julie Stephen going through the basics of colour with us. So we're really lucky to have her, and I'll hand over to her in a wee sec. I just wanted to say that you will be getting some more materials. Tonight, all you need is the little watercolor tin that you got in your first box. You are going to get some more acrylic paint in some colors, a couple more brushes, a jelly plate, and a roller, because the lovely Julie will be coming back in a couple of weeks' time to do another session with you about printing. And we're also getting another set of materials from the old mill pal Naki. So that was Lucy Lee, who you met last block. She's sending some homemade colours. So that's what we're waiting for, and some different papers and so on. So as you know, my sort of approach is basically that you just keep practicing and repeating the same exercises over and over. There's nothing wrong with that. It's so we can do what we do tonight, but then we can also try it again with some different materials and whatnot. So I shall be posting out some materials within the next, let's say about 10 days, I want to say, ish, or thereabouts, but you will getting some more things. Also just wanted to mention that Julie's demonstrating in acrylic, because obviously it shows up a lot easier on the video. If we were doing it in watercolor, it would all bead together and you wouldn't be able to see. So that's why Julie's using acrylic. Okay. She's also made us a really, really lovely PowerPoint full of absolutely tons of information and terms and everything. So don't worry too much about taking loads of notes, because I will drop that into the Facebook group and you'll be able to check everything out. But obviously, if you've got some questions, note them down, and then there'll be plenty of time to ask Julie questions or to go back over things if you're not sure. Okay, so I shall shut up and hand over to the lovely Julie to introduce herself to us. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Good evening, everybody. Lovely to see lots of new faces and lots of friendly faces that I recognise. So thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks for having me, Liz. This evening, we're going to show you the video of the task that we're going to do, first of all, which is the colour wheel task that Liz was just talking about. We're then going to go through the PowerPoint, and I'll explain about tones and tints and shades. So for those of you that have done colour theory workshops before, this is maybe something that you're revisiting this evening. If you've not done any colour theory since you were last at school, well, this is a good chance for you to go back to basics and have some good foundations for this second block for the art journaling. We are going to look at, towards the end of the evening, look at how we can then use the knowledge that you're gaining tonight and use it in your art journaling pages. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Julie Stephen, and I work as a freelance artist tutor, and I've also got my own little visual arts business, the Artful Corner. So I do illustration and printmaking and things. That's why I'll be coming back to share some printmaking with you in a couple of weeks. So Liz, should we maybe start the video? And does everybody have all the materials that they need as well? So we've got well, I've got the list in front of me, which you won't have, sorry, so I'm busy looking down here. But I know that you put that in the chat, didn't you, this evening? So your watercolor paints, water, brushes, pencil, some circular shapes to draw around. I'd suggested like a tub and then a smaller one for the center. So if you want to grab any of those things, but we can have a pause once we've watched the video as well. So I think if we maybe,
Okie
see what
dokes.
we're going to do. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. Right, I'm just going to share my screen. Hang on a minute.
Hello everyone, my name's Julie Stephen and I'll be working with you during the colour block of workshops that you have this session. I'm at Castle Dykes Gardens this morning gathering some photographs for visual information for our workshops. We're going to do some painting one week and then a couple of weeks after we'll do some jelly printing together. So we're going to do some colour theory and that'll be my next part of this video. So I'm looking forward to working with you all. Thank you. Okay, everyone. So this is what we're going to start with this evening. During our Zoom session, we're going to create a simple colour wheel from the three primary colours, red, blue and yellow. And I will also spend some time explaining the different terms like hue, tone, value and tint. And I've also made up some handouts that you can print off, and these include a colour wheel worksheet, glossary of the different terms we're using, and they'll also list some suggested colours as well if you want to expand your collection of paints that you have, or if you wanted to choose inks. So we're going to start off by drawing out our colour wheel. You just need a couple of circular shapes like a cereal bowl, a little side plate. I've got a little plastic recycled Tupperware here and a roll of sellotape. And you just want to draw that around the top half of your page. So whether you do these straight into your journal or you do it on a separate sheet and then stick it in your journal when it's dry. And then going around the smaller circle, the inside of your colour wheel, and I'm then going to divide up my circle into 12 sections. And you can use a ruler if you wish, but I'm just doing this by eye, so I'm dividing it into 4, so that's like 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and then divide each of those quarters into 3. So that will give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sections for our primary colours, our secondary colours, and our tertiary colours. So these are the 3 sets of colours that we're going to mix. We'll spend some time talking about complementary colours, colour harmonies, and how to use warm colours and how to use cold colours or cool colours in your palette that you choose. So I'm starting off with 3 primary colours on my palette. So for this evening, I'm going to use the acrylics. If you've got your little watercolour sets, that's perfect. Also, if you've got any inks, drawing inks, you could use those as well. So you're starting off with a little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow, and some red. So with my acrylic paints here, you'll notice I've got 2 reds. So the scarlet red is a more orangey based warm red. The crimson is slightly cooler, so it'll have a little bit of blue in that. And that'll be something that we talk about, choosing whether it's a cold palette or a warm palette for painting. Different blues, different reds, different yellows have different hues, and they will make a range of different secondaries and so on. So I've chosen the warm colour for now. I also need my jam jar of water, a water jug, and just a small brush. So I'm going to start off painting in the 3 sections where the primary colours need to go. So start off at the top with your red. So that's me back up at 12 o'clock, going towards 1. Don't worry about staining the lines. Don't worry about the texture of the paint at the moment. It's really just the colour mixing we're focusing on this evening. I'll give my brush a good clean. I'm now taking a little bit of the yellow. And it's important to leave 3 spaces between our primary colours. The secondary will go right in the middle, and then our tertiaries will go either side. So I've left 1, 2, 3 spaces there. And I'll do the same as I'm moving round towards the blue. So again, I will leave 1, 2, 3 spaces, and then I'll move on to the blue paint. So again, wash the brush. And that's me put in our 3 primary colours. So you can vary the shade of your primary colours. You can vary the tone, but you can't make a blue, you can't make a red, you can't make a yellow. We just have to get those. You can see a little bit more of my brush strokes on the blue there. Maybe I watered that down too much. There we go. So we're now going to move on to the 3 secondary colours. And a secondary is made by mixing 2 of the primary colours together. So I'm going to take some yellow, a little bit of red, we'll make our orange. Now I'm just going to change my brush just now. So I want to keep that orange as it is. I'm going to mix it a little bit lighter with some more yellow and a little bit darker with some more red when I'm ready. But I want to move around to the green and then around to the purple. So I'm just going to have 3 brushes here just now for this part of the activity. And if you can see, I'm taking some yellow paint and just a tiny little bit of blue at the moment. A little bit more than that. It's better to add your darker colours gradually rather than having to work back the other way, because you end up using an awful lot of white or a lot of yellow paint to lighten it.
You won't need as many brushes this evening. That was just because I was using the acrylics. So you'll be fine just washing your brush.
The blue. And then finally, we need some red. And we need some blue. And we're going to make a purple. Now this is where the cool or warm colours kind of come in for them to themselves. If I'd used a colder red like the crimson, my purple would have been more easier to create, because at the moment the red is very warm and it's given me more of a burgundy or a plum or a maroon colour rather than a kind of violet. So gradually just adding a little bit more of the blue, and that will do for my purple just now. And you see it's really dark. So that's us filling up the colour wheel quite nicely. We've got our 3 primaries, we've got our 3 secondaries. So the tertiary colours are that next stage, the ones in between. So a red orange or a yellow orange or a green blue, the ones kind of in between. So that depends on how much of the different primaries that you add together. So if you're adding a lot of yellow to your red, then you're going to get a lighter, brighter orange. If you're adding a lot of blue to your green, sorry, to your yellow, your green will be almost like sea green. Okay, here's my orange I had earlier. So if I want to take some of that orange and add a little bit more red to it, and I place it next to the two colours, you will see that gradual change from red through to orange. So I have my orange, that was the middle colour here, and I have my yellow. So I'm going to take a big scoop of the yellow now and mix that in. And paint that alongside the yellow paint and the orange paint. So I'm going to do that all the way around my colour wheel. Go on to the green. So we've got our grassy green here. I want to make it lighter, more like a lime green. So I'm taking lots of yellow, mixing that into the grassy green. And there you have it there. And then to make that grassy green darker, I take a bigger scoop of the blue. And that will give us more of a darker kind of forest green. So I will be asking you to make swatches of colours that you see in nature this week. So if you just look here at these 3 different greens I've made this evening, you're going to see a lot of these about when you're looking at plants, you're looking at trees, you're looking at ferns. So it'll be really interesting to see the different swatches of colours that you put in your journal this week. So taking some of the purple, mixing it into the blue. And there's our more kind of violet. Wash my brush. Then for the final colour, we're scooping up quite a lot of the red, mixing that into the purple mix that we have. So you've got quite a deep red. Okay, so there's my rather scruffy looking colour wheel to start with, but that gives us a really good basis for the colour work that we start with this walk. Okay, thanks everybody.
Okay. So I don't know if anybody started to paint their colour wheel while we were watching the video, or maybe you want to just watch the film and then come back to that activity later. Has anybody given it a shot just now while we were watching that? Some people?
Yes.
Yes.
So
is there any questions about that first activity then, making the colour wheel? Nicola?
I was just wondering, looking at my watercolor colours, is it the cadmium red pale that you have to use for that one, or does it not matter?
Well, it doesn't matter which one because you'll get an effect anyway, because both of them are going to be a warm red. Your lemon yellow is a bit cooler than the cadmium yellow pale that you have. So again, it doesn't really matter. You're just going to get a slightly different effect than what I'm getting. But I would use the ultramarine blue, that kind of darker blue. You got that one as well?
Yeah.
Because I think the Prussian blue is just too dark, too bold. But it doesn't matter if you've used any of the other ones. We are trying to get you to make your own greens, your own purples, and your own oranges at the moment. So try not to just paint with the pre-mades that you've got in your palette. You can do that later on this week when you're doing the different tasks, obviously. But it's just to try and encourage everybody to mix their own colours. this evening.
Yeah, it's a challenge, this one.
Yeah.
I just show mine quick because I just thought I'd do it quickly with this particular
Yes.
watercolor palette, so you knew. So I actually used the Cad Red Deep, which is that one. I used the Ultramarine, and then I used Cad Yellow Pale, I think it was, but it does look quite, quite yolky. And they come out quite nice. So just wash your brush in between and then dab it off a little bit if it's a bit wet. But they're pretty bright colours actually. So yeah. Anyway, sorry, that was just me interjecting about the palette.
Yeah, so that's kind of task one that you need to kind of complete before any of the other activities in theory. But if we're wanting to move on to the mixing the tints and tones and shades, we could maybe have a look at the PowerPoint now, Liz, and refer to those if that's okay with everybody, unless you're all wanting to kind of catch up with the color wheel.
So what's the general consensus for folks then? Do you want to carry on just focusing on doing your color wheel? Or do you want to, should we just start going through your PowerPoint at the same time, Julie? I mean,
I'm happy to do whichever's best for the groups.
But for the second part, Julie, are we needing another colour wheel? We need to make another colour wheel.
Not for the second. There will be color wheels that I'd like you to create in your journal later on in the week. But the next part is taking one of the colors that you've mixed this evening, and we're going to make that color with white, with black, with grey.
Okay, fine.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Is it possible to put like a photograph even in the chat of like Liz's finished color wheel? So maybe bit by bit, I just can't remember what goes in what space again. If that's not possible, it's fine. I can probably Google anyway.
Yeah. So there's pictures, isn't there, in the.
Okay, well, I can just take a picture of that. That would be fine. And I will slowly just add the bits in as I go. Thank you.
And we'll have access to this PowerPoint as well, Nicola, after tonight's session.
Grand, thank you.
So if possible, Liz, could you go back to the previous image there of some of my examples of work?
yeah. Oops.
Thank you.
Right, sorry, start again. Right, there we go.
Yeah, so I mentioned at the beginning that I did illustration, and the illustrations I make, they're usually really bold and bright. So, color's a big thing in the drawings and illustrations and paintings that I do. But rather than using watercolor paints, I often use watercolor inks. So there's a little photograph at the top there just showing you some of the examples of the inks that I do use. Why I use the inks rather than the paints is that the colors, although so bright and vivid, they're more translucent, more transparent, that you can see my drawings through the inks. Because what I would do is I would sketch and then go over my pencil sketch with fine line pens, and these are like a permanent pen, and then I can wash over the colors that I've mixed on top. So that's book illustrations, birthday card illustrations, and also some of my Inktober and Feb Create Challenge drawings that I've done, all with the same kind of technique. So that's how I use a lot of color in my own personal work. If we could move to the next slide again, please, Liz. Thank you. So what we were doing and what I was doing in the little video that we just watched was fill in those 12 segments of the colour wheel. And what I would like us to do for task 2 is a little explanation of how to mix a tint, a tone and a shade. So on this sheet from the PowerPoint, I've got a little glossary of terms there. And then on the right hand side, you'll see a little panel. One says hue, which is your actual colour. One says tint, one says shade, and one says tone. So what I would like you to do at the bottom of your page, or start a new page in your journal if you don't have room under your colour wheel, and I would like you to choose one hue. So for my example, if we could go to the next page of the colour wheel, sorry, the PowerPoint, thank you. For my example, I've used red. So note it down in your journal or the paper that you're working on, what the hue is, what the tint is, what the shade is, and so on. So what I've done there is I've written hue and then I've used red. So you could start with purple, you could start with orange, you could start with yellow, it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be red. And then I would like you to do a little swatch of colour to make a tint. And if you can write that again, tint is red plus white, and then you mix it together and you can see it's made pink.
Is this, Julie, sorry, Julie, is this in acrylic you're working? Because we're working in watercolours.
Yes, I'm using acrylics just so you can see a bit clearer, Jill, but you're to do it in the watercolours. So you can still make a hue and a tint and so on. You've got China white, haven't you, I think?
Oh, right. So you use China white, was it? Okay.
Yeah. Have you got that in your palette, have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the lamp black you can use for your shade.
Okay.
So we need a hue, we need a tint. We also need a shade. So that is the red. That's my red hue plus black. And I then mix that together and I do a little swatch of what I've done, what I've mixed there. And then the final one is the tone, but I'd like you to mix up a grey first. So use your Chinese white and a little bit of the lamp black, mix that together to make a grey, and then add it to the hue. So you're kind of creating a muted colour. It's very different from the shade. I know I seem to be rattling through, especially for people that are just listening and watching the videos. So please stop me if I'm going too fast. Is that clear looking at that image? Do we need to kind of move?
Okay.
Can everybody see those ones? Okay.
How's everybody doing?
Yep, fine.
Okay, well done, Heather. How are you doing, Karen? You confused?
Making brown. Lots of brown.
All right. You can on your use your sections of your palette so that you've got yellow in one and blue in another and red in another, and then it might be easy, or you can do it there's like a little piece of watercolor paper inside the tin if it's easier to mix on that, because and then you just want to choose one of the colors that you've mixed that you like the best. I've got quite a nice purple with this tin that I quite like, so that's going to be my starting color, the hue. And then I'm going to turn that starting color, the purple, into a tint by adding white. And then use a bit more of the same color and add grey to turn it into a shade. And then a bit more, and then add the two to make the tone. This is like, it takes, remember, like with everything we've done, everything takes practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also you want to try it with different colors later on. Once you got the hang of, oh, I know how to make tints. I know I add white to color. Well, try it with all the colors. I tend to call them ice cream colors because, you're going to make a nice minty green. You're going to make a nice vanilla yellow. So use your journal to make those. It's almost like the little paint swatches that you get from when you're choosing your Dulux color or whatever for your bathroom. You're making your little paint charts, and that's going to give you lots of information for when you come to do a study or create a composition or whatever. You've got all that background knowledge of how to mix your colors.
Is the shade, to get the shade, you add black, lamp black, is that right?
Yes.
And to get the tone, you to add the black and the white, which gives you a grey, and you add that grey to the red, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for.
I mean, it's quite a lot to get your head round,
So
don't worry if you're feeling a bit bamboozled. Just take
and like
it.
we said, we've got that PowerPoint that does give you that broken down, so you can keep referring to it. It's not something we're expecting you to grasp in 10 minutes. And you definitely want to play with the color as well and experiment.
Thing is, you're not having to get something right for like this isn't like you're not going to have the color detectives come round your house and inspect if you've done your proportions exactly right. You've made your recipe of color. It's basically just mixing all the colors and making brown is a shade pretty much. so just have a go. Just you can keep turning the page, turn another page, or get another piece of paper, and you can wipe off whatever you're mixing on. If you're mixing on a little saucer or a plastic lid or something like that, or the lid of the thing, wipe it off and start again. Wash your brush and start again. You might watch me there. I'm always like, yeah, I always put the point back by sucking the brush. That's not very nice, is it? But anyway.
Yeah, how many of us drink the paint water thinking it's the tea, or dipping our brush in our cup of tea, and it's a weekly occurrence.
Yeah, so that'll happen. Not sure what colour tea makes it, but I think also with the watercolour, because the watercolours are tricky, and it does come down to a lot of variables with watercolour. I mean, these are great because they're really strong colours, but you'll notice that you can explore this with the amount of water that you add as well.
Yeah.
So you can make, a tint by adding a bit more water. Is that right, Julie? Yeah.
That is right. I think that's what, Jill, you were maybe thinking about until I mentioned about the white.
That's where I was getting confused because
Yeah,
acrylics
with me using the acrylics. Yeah.
It's a bit. Yeah. I think the really tricky trick is if you get given a color or you're thinking of a color is how to meet that, whatever that color is, how to meet that. It's not easy. It's a real skill.
It's not easy because you also have your brain involved as well, and sometimes your brain is deciding that you're seeing a particular color when actually you're not.
Yeah, totally.
Often, it's like one of the things that's quite handy is if you speak the color out loud. I know that sounds a bit weird, but say you're looking at a sunset or something, or a sky, or like far distant hills and stuff, and it's sometimes easier it's to say it's like a smoky blue color, or it's a dusty pink color, or something like that. It kind of helps so that especially if it's one of these weird neutral colors that's slightly brown or slightly gray, It's funny.
Mm. I guess it's why jigsaws are so difficult. You get to think, where on earth does that fit?
Like, this is a bit cheaty, but I was thinking, is there an app for that? And we're not allowed to cheat.
Is there a what, sorry?
I can imagine there maybe being an app to help with that kind of thing. I know that's totally cheating, but I was looking for an easy life.
I think you can Google a color and go, what is this color? And they tell you what you think it is, which can be quite amusing in itself.
There's a color wheel that that's really quite handy online, and somebody devised it for matching colors on computer screens. And it's called the Martian color wheel. So if you Google that, it's just spelt Martian, M-A-R-T-A-I-N. That's how you spell Martian, isn't it? And it's really useful. And he's named the colors like quite funny names, like, you know, like asparagus green or something like that. And it's quite a useful one. It's not the paint colors as such, but it's the different colors that will come up on a screen. And I find it sometimes when I'm getting stuck with something, it's actually a really useful one, because it's like this idea where it's got the tone and the shade and the tint, and you know, you can see it. But yeah, that might help a little bit. I've tried doing this one with a purple, but all I'm getting is like really like almost like black. So I'm going to try again using just the red out of the tin.
How was your tone with the grey and the black, the purple? Was that still?
It's just coming up like, it's almost like Payne's grey, you know. It's like slight slate. It's like slate now, which is lovely. It's a beautiful color, but I'll try again with the red. So same thing. If you've got to repeat this task a few times just to get that, so you can see the difference.
Could you remind me? Sorry, could you remind me, what was it? I heard, I was listening but painting and not really listening. But you said something about make grey. I've managed to do like mix white, pick a colour, mix white, pick a colour, add bits of black to get it sort of going up in shade and then going down shade. You said something about mixing grey. What does that do? Sorry.
Yeah, so down at the bottom of that sheet there, it says about tones. So a tone is something that's kind of muted. So what you need to do is mix a grey first. So use your China white and your lamp black. Mix a grey. So you've got a blob of grey in your palette, and then gradually add your color to it. And
my
that will
original
make
color.
Yeah. So
my
like I did red
colour
on there. Yeah. But
Perfect.
so it's almost like you've got another space in your palette for
I'm
grey.
with you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you say that anything can be a hue because that's your starting colour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously not black or white.
Okay.
Julia, we might be doing those strips now.
You can do the strips, or you can just do the little sum, you know, the plus and equals, whichever is more relevant for your kind of learning, really.
Okay, thank you.
It's quite nice doing the little strips, the kind of tonal ladder.
Yes,
It's hard with these watercolors. It's quite hard to not taint your white.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
or
a
your
little
lighter
sponge there. You can use
I've
that
been
a wee
cleaning
bit.
up. Just you need about 20. I need 20, at least 20 cups of water, ranging from dirty for that. I have lots of hues going through my water at the moment.
I normally
Another
have 2
container.
pots on the go, but what I find
Yeah,
with me, I
I've
try.
got 2. They're both brown.
Yeah,
Forget
what the
that.
trick is, like, to keep one for dirty, like dirty water,
Yeah.
like for cleaning your brushes, and then one
Yeah.
for adding water to your paint. And it's a real discipline. But
It is.
my main problem is that I start mixing on every surface I can find. I try to be tidy. I try to keep it contained, but I've mixed over here, I've mixed a bit in the book, I've mixed on a pad that I found here, I'll be mixing on the wall in a minute, but yeah. It's very difficult for me to be tidy with paint, but I think, yeah, I'm really trying, Julie.
Mhm.
So I've got a shade, I think.
So once you can see that you're not just going to get half a dozen colours from this palette that you have, that's going to really open up your pages and your drawings and your mark making and everything that you're doing for this next block. So
Mm.
kind of tonight, it's almost putting those foundations there, and then you can kind of flick back to these pages later on in the block and think, oh, how was it I was making those greens? And you know, you'll be able to use them in other pieces of work. So I think the more you can get down on paper this week, you know, with the color mixing, it will really benefit you through the next few weeks. You know, even when we're doing our printmaking, we'll be using the acrylic paints to print. But quite often when I'm doing the jelly printing workshops, people say, but what colors look good together? What works well? So then you can refer back to your color wheel and either do your complementary colors, which we'll talk about soon, and or your color harmonies, and you know, you've got that bit of background knowledge that will really help you. Don't want to
This is
bamboozle
why
everybody.
we don't do color right from the get-go. So this is the logic, okay? So this is why we've concentrated so much on your lines and your marks and just being free, because when you start introducing color, and all right, you've got a nice set of colors that are pre-made for you as well, but it is far better, I think, to mix your own colors, because then you have an understanding of where they come from and how to get there. It's like little recipes, isn't it, a bit?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know some printmakers that actually keep little cards with so much red, so much yellow, so much whatever. How, you know, almost like a recipe of how they made a color, so they can replicate it again, so they can use it again.
Yeah, I mean, I've got I'm not as organized as that, but I
No,
do
I'm not
have
that
like, yeah, I do have like a like, you could call it like a studio notebook kind of thing, so that to try and remember this stuff, because you invariably forget, you know, and if you mix something really nice, just put a little swatch of it somewhere. So I've got get my book. So I just do it like,
I asked a remarkably silly question. What was the masking tape for?
Draw
it was
round.
drawing around a smaller circle in the middle, Jill.
Ah,
outer
right.
circle and inner one.
I thought it was for actually using the masking tape. I'm thinking, did I miss that? Fine. That's what I
This
use
is my
for.
studio book. And like, so I was doing an experiment with that's cadmium orange and ultramarine. You wouldn't realize that that's orange, but you get these most amazing colors. So that's the shady way, the tint way, and then the, oh, I can never get the words right, but you know, I know what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's cad orange and ultramarine.
So
Mad.
that's your complementaries.
Basically make almost a brown, won't it? Because
Mm.
when you mix it almost the three together. What colour does it make?
Like a pale green.
A pale green.
Yeah, it's very nice green. It's like that was when I was sort of exploring like frosty grass sort of thing. So it's all quite seasonal, isn't it, with your colours? That's why you need, you know, a warm one and a pale one.
There's like literally like a green fly right on top of that. Do you know that sort of grassy green in our it's like gone on there to show me.
Camouflage.
It's like amazing. I've just taken a photograph of it because I was like, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, from nature.
Yeah, it was showing me its colour.
Yeah. Don't squash it, don't squit it.
Well, our next task for the week is actually matching nature's palette. So you can go and find some bugs that match all the colours. That'd be quite fun.
Brilliant.
That's interesting. I did a wee pen and wash at the start of the week, I think it was. No, what day is it? No, must have been last week now, of a foxglove. And actually, because I don't really understand colour and I'm a bit impatient, I just was like, oh yeah, that'll do. And I was like, when I put it on, I was like, that's really nothing like the colour of a foxglove. So I will
Yeah, do it again.
Yeah.
Do the exact same thing. Don't go looking for something else, you know. Well, not unless you want to, but you know, just go back to the foxglove and compare it, and try it with, you know, the pale red or the dark. You know, what have we got again? What are the colours again? The pale one or the deep one or something, or try the ultramarine blue, or just that would be really interesting. You could be going all day doing that.
Could we go back a page in the PowerPoint, please, Liz, to the glossary?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you read through the glossary there, I've mentioned these terms to you this evening. Now, a lot of you will understand all these terms and it's something that you use regularly. But for those of you that aren't as familiar, are you beginning, as you're painting this evening, is it beginning to make a bit more sense? You know, I mentioned there about the ice cream colours. So that's the tints where you're adding white to your colour. So that's what you've been doing just now. And making a shade, that's when you're adding black. Making a tone, and that's making it muted. And that's when we added the grey. So that's what we're doing with this activity. Liz just mentioned there about her cad orange and her blue to make that lovely mossy frosty green. And they would be complementary colours on the colour wheel. Or is everybody aware of what a complementary colour is?
Opposite.
Yeah, that's right, Heather. It's the opposite. So you're actually looking at that colour wheel that we've painted, and if you were to draw a line across the page, so the reds are opposite green, the oranges are opposite blue, and the purples are opposite yellow. So you can mix those together to make a lovely neutral colour. And also, if you're using them to make something really bold and eye-catching, you keep them separate. I'm thinking of like Matisse. He did a lot of kind of blue and yellowy orange work. So yeah, that's where the complementaries come from. And then the other part of the glossary, the colour harmonies. So that's colours which sit close to one another on the colour wheel. So your violets, your pinks, your reds. So you know, when people are not sure about which colours to go with, a safe bet is go for colours that are next to each other anywhere around the colour wheel. Your yellows, your greens, your blues, your purples, that kind of idea. So you clump them together and you can't really go wrong. And then obviously we've mentioned about primaries and secondaries and tertiary colours when we've actually been mixing the wheel there. So there's lots of information about colour, and I do apologise if it's been too much this evening for all at once, but it's going to stand you in good stead for the next few workshops. Has anybody got any questions at this point?
What was it called? The colours that are opposite? Did you say?
So either opposite colours or complementary colours.
The opposite each other on the wheel, but complementary.
Yeah,
That
they're
would be.
complementary.
Julie, the tone, is it basically the colour, the hue, plus grey?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
How are you doing there, Lorraine? You all right?
Yes, I'm okay. I'm just
Yeah.
never quite sure with watercolours how much water to add.
Well, with what can help is that so before using one of the particular colours, just add a couple of drops of water to the top of the paint, on the top of the paint, and just let it sink in for a few, few seconds or something, and that'll just soften the top, and then that will make the pigment sort of activate a bit more, so you don't have to scrub at it with loads of water. So you want a damp brush. You can perhaps sort of squeeze it off on the side of your water pot, and then you should get quite a lot on the end of your brush there. The other option is to use there's a water brush that comes with it, obviously, and you could put a little bit of water inside that, and then you're just adding a couple of drops at a time when you're using that one. But I think for this, you want a sort of damp brush, just so you get that intensity of colour.
Yeah, because these are a lot more intense than anything I've tried before. So I didn't know if I was overdoing it or not, but
no,
okay.
But that's really good though, that experimenting with how much water to add is another way, well, particularly with watercolour, of getting that sort of difference of
Yeah, right, okay. Lovely. I'll be able to have a play. Thank you.
Have a play.
Another thing you can do, Lorraine, is if you've got a little water spritzer as well, rather than just dropping the water on, you can you can give it a little spray, like Liz was saying, and let it kind of settle in before you paint. Give it a little swoosh.
I gave them I'm just never quite sure. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I've already messed my white up. Never mind. How about Danny and Leslie there? Are you guys following along all right? Anything you want to pop in the chat, perhaps, just to check that you're doing okay? Cool.
So I'm just wondering if we can go through the other tasks now for the rest of the week, if people are happy to pause their painting, and we can have a look at the next pages of the PowerPoint that you're going to be given. Yeah, so once you've finished your basic colour wheel and you've completed your hues and tints and your shades and your tone sheets, we want to move on to this matching the Nature's paint palette. So I've got in the PowerPoint, there's a few pages of the photographs that was taken down at Castle Dyke. So you want to mix a palette inspired by nature. So if you're able to get out and about, then, you know, take your own photographs, or you could do some outdoor painting, take your little pack with you. If getting out and about is difficult for you, then please use the images that are in the PowerPoint here or good old Google. So we're looking at nature, but as we were just mentioned about the green fly with Nicola, it doesn't have to be just plants. You know, you can expand your color scheme with animals and beasties and things if you wish. So we're looking for like the color harmonies that are growing out there naturally. So finding an abundance of green, especially in this soggy weather that we're having at the moment. The plants are loving it. But when you do come across some lovely colors for the petals, like these red flowers, in my example here, you want to be able to copy those colors and put the little swatches. You're not having to draw the plants or anything. You can if you wish, but try and match the colors that are out there. So you could just do little squares of what you see, or if you want to draw what's out there and then fill them in with the colors that you mix, then that's absolutely great as well. So there's lots of options. So that's task number 3. So Liz, if we can just flick through the pages until we come to task 4. So these are some other examples. Lots of different greens, as I was mentioning. There we go, that's great. We can keep this page up. So once you've got your colour swatches, and these are just a couple more pages from my sketchbooks, I always seem to give myself a few notes in whatever I'm doing. It might be about an illustration, you know, or maybe I want to improve something, or I've had a good idea of, you know, how I could incorporate some text or something. I'm always scribbling in my sketchbook. So, you know, feel free to add little quotes or little bits of information, you know, little reminders. So in the second page there, I felt I needed to warm up my greens, so I obviously added some orange in. I've labelled that as well. But we were thinking that you could maybe draw over the top of the paint as well when it's dry. You've done a lot of mark making, I think, with the different artists that you've met in block 1. So you could now incorporate the skills that you've learned from Helen and from Jackie and from Lucy and Liz, and incorporate that with some color now as well. So I've used some Conti crayon over the top, and I think maybe the next page, please, Liz, will show you a couple of examples where I've used some continuous line. Yeah, so painting with the new colors would be task 4. So try some continuous line drawing with your paint brushes, and build up the skills from block 1, which I was just mentioning about. And then you can move on to drawing the plants, the flowers, the nature around you if you wish. So you've gone from the swatches of nature, mixing the colors, to then, you know, having a go painting and drawing what's out there, adding some layers of color, some crayon, some texture. There's different brush strokes, different marks that you can add. Play around with the brushes that you've got in your pack. Liz has mentioned as well today about the watercolors. Play around with how much water you're adding. And with your continuous line, you're not going to get the same with a painted brush, you're not going to get the same constant line that you would with a felt tip pen. It will break up as you run out of paint, but that's okay. You can get a really lovely effect. If you run out of paint, that's all right. Just dip your brush back in the pot again and, you know, continue with your drawing. So that's the kind of activities that we would begin with. Am I rattling on a bit too fast, Liz, do you think, with the different tasks?
No, that's
No,
cool.
we're okay. Okay. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
So then task 5. So that's us moving on. It's a bit of an extension task, this one, a bit of fun. Not, you know, I feel all the activities could be quite light-hearted. Don't get bogged down, you know, too much with all the technical side. We would like you to make some creative color wheels. So it could be a bicycle with the two wheels, all the bicycle spokes divided up into the color wheel. We've got like the Andy Goldsworthy design there with the nature objects that have been gathered, you know, like a scavenger hunt. So feathers and leaves and berries and petals, and you could arrange those into your color wheel, and then take a photograph and pop that in your art journal. Or you could do a bit of collage. You could try some colored pencil. You could try a portrait, dividing that up into 12 and having 12 different sections. I know you made some beautiful eye drawings with Lucy in block 1, and you could almost divide up, like David Bowie kind of eye, divide up the iris into the 12 different sections. So there's lots of fun ways of creating a creative colour wheel, and I'll look forward to seeing what you come up with. Please feel free to add in scraps of material or collage paper or wallpaper. Start building up the colour in your books now. You know, you can start to add all sorts to the pages that you're going to work on. Yeah, that one's quite a fun one to kind of end on in the week. I know it seems like quite a lot of tasks, and you might just dip in and out to one thing. Don't feel like you've got to do them all, but please don't get bogged down on the technical side of it. If anybody's feeling like, ooh, feels like school again.
But I think that that basic rule of having 12 spaces and having a red, a blue, and a yellow, and I think that's your essential bit, isn't it? And just I mean, I really like the idea of the found objecty type one. You know, you could do that with anything, couldn't you? With like fabrics or anything that you've got at home with actual objects, or so you can do that one around the home or something, or in your own garden, or if you've got kids, you can do that one with the kids. That would be lovely.
Yeah, with the toys. People like
toys,
to do that with their books, don't they, as well?
Yeah, that's a favourite, isn't it, on Instagram, where people are doing a colour wheel of the spines of their books, or with like a jar of felt tip pens or something. But yeah, that's a good one to explore, that one, and the collaging. I love, and like, obviously, you know, those of us who are well into paper sticking, you know, Helen Walsh saying that paper sticking, she was the queen of paper sticking, but we can explore that one. So it's just that simple rule, but you can really go for it and find the things that you like yourself. And then the mark making one, I think that's lovely. So exploring in a way that is familiar, that we've done before, you know, not having to get too worried about things looking like things, but you just keep your eye on what you're looking at and get a general sort of shape of leaves or a shape of a tree or something. It could be just something that you can see through your window. You don't have to go, you know, or like you say, a Google image or something, or a picture from a magazine or a book, or your potted plant. I've got a lovely orchid at the moment that is trying to do a new flower.
I never get very far with a second flower. You know, they always cut, you know, a lovely gift, and then I don't know quite what I do.
Yeah, they're funny ones.
Overwater? I don't
Yeah,
know.
overwater. You want like silvery roots with a little green, little tiny little bit of green on the end of each root. If it's bright
Oh.
green roots, they're overwatered. I learned that this week.
Oh.
Mm.
Actually, don't throw them out, because I had one and I kept it for months and it looked dead, and then it started to flower.
Yeah,
So
they're funny things.
just needed a bit of neglect.
Yes.
They don't like too much light, actually. They
Oh.
like sort of like indirect light and a bit of humidity, so they're quite good in the bathroom.
Mm.
There you go. It's only because my dad used to grow orchids, so
Oh.
I think he
Right.
preferred the orchids to us kids, to be honest. But so yeah, we were always having to, you know, be respectful of all these orchids. That's great. So, Julie, do you want to show us some of? Oh,
Oh yes, we've got our bit about the warm and
yeah,
cold as well.
yeah,
Yes. So in the box that you have, your I mentioned briefly at the beginning about you know, what colours that you've got and whether they're cold and warm. If you look at the two greens that you've got in your palette, you've got sap green and you've got viridian green. So sap green is the paler one, and that is what we would call a warm green. Although green is a cool colour, this is where it gets a little bit confusing. But sap green has got more of a yellow in it. So that is what's making it a slightly warmer green than the viridian, which has obviously got a blue in it. More blue, sorry, not obviously got blue, but it's got more blue in it. So that makes it cooler. So this is what the sheet on the PowerPoint here just explains a little bit more about, although you get warm colours and cool colours on the colour wheel, you can also then break it down into warm primaries and cool primaries. So a painter would tend to choose a warm and a cool yellow, a warm and a cool blue, and a warm and a cool red. And they all, you know, everybody has their favorites depending on the palette. So there's some examples here if anybody wanted to, you know, add to the paints that they already have. Or if, you know, when they get to the end of their art journal project, whether painting it does become something for you in a big way. So having that information there is handy. So looking at your palette again, you've got lemon yellow. So that is a cooler yellow than the cadmium yellow that you have. So when you're mixing colors with your lemon yellow, sorry, that's a bit of a mouthful to say, sorry. That is going to give you a cooler green when you mix it with blue, rather than a warmer green like the sap green when you mix it with the cadmium. So you know that if you look at your palette and compare it to the sheet that's on the PowerPoint there's another little color wheel that will help you understand the different warm and cool hues that you have. We mentioned in the video about warm reds. When you're mixing a purple, that can end up making your purple look brown or plum or maroon, rather than that kind of violet, really kind of regal purple that you maybe want. So I would use a crimson if I was going to want to go for something a bit more violety, and that's a cool red. So if we could then go to the next sheet, please. Next slide, sorry, please, Liz.
There we go.
And this is just, again, a couple of printouts. You could print these off, and that's just a little bit more practice for you. Just breaking down color wheels, and also working out which are your warm and your cool colors on the color wheel. So you understand that the reds, the oranges, and the yellows are the warm, and the blues and the greens and the purples are cool. Does everybody understand that part of it?
Right.
It's just what I've just said just now about these cool lemons and warm sap greens, that just adds a whole nother layer to the theory, and it's like that's just contradicting what I know, but you break it down and it makes a bit more sense.
Thank you. Oh,
That's just a couple of my illustrations. I was saying to Liz today, I put in some of the artists that I feel have influenced maybe indirectly sometimes my work. There's the artist folios. What was the name of the album in the Facebook group?
I think I've just called it like Artists Inspo or something. Yeah, so you just go into like media across the top in the Facebook group, and it will, and there's a whole, hang on a minute, I'm just going to do it whilst I'm on my phone so I can remember exactly what I've called it. So when you go across the top of the Facebook group, there's some tabs, and then there are albums of Artists Inspo.
Yeah. So I've added a lot of illustration inspiration because that's what I'm doing a lot of. And when I share my sketchbooks with you before the printmaking session, before we meet again, you'll see in my sketchbooks and the work that I do for the illustration, you can see where the Quentin Blake and the Raymond Briggs images, what you can see where I've obviously been influenced, and it's not I'm going out my way to try and copy them or anything like that. It's obviously subconsciously because of those kind of images as a child or as a young adult, seeing those. But you've also got the political newspaper illustrations, cartoons. I remember at school us having a project when I was a kid, take modern studies, and I just thought these were great, making these caricatures of, like the spitting image caricatures and that kind of idea. So I've put in Ralph Steadman and Gerald Scarf as kind of influences too for the drawing side of it. And then I've included Rebecca Vincent. She is a contemporary printmaker from Northumbria. Jill, I think you know her work as well. She does the big monotypes. It's amazing what she can create. These are all layered, same piece of damp papers going through the press again and again and again, but she's using different techniques, different mark making on her mono plate to create these wonderful skies, and just the way she uses these wild, lovely colors for sunset, sunrise, and so on. I think they're really inspiring.
Is everybody able to see those? Shall I just bring the Facebook group up quickly so that
that would be good, thank you.
Okay, I'll just do that. Hi everybody. Right, I'm just gonna find the Facebook group.
But I have to say I'm bad for jumping about between different things. I mean, I've got the illustration, the drawing side that I love doing, but then I also love my printmaking, and I don't know what it is. I just kind of find a hop about doing different things. It's maybe not such a good thing, but
I think there's sometimes there's just different ways of expressing different ideas, isn't it, really? Right, let me just share screen again. So it's this one, Artist Inspo. So these are like suggestions from all the people all the guest artists you've met so far. And so if we scroll down to the bottom, it will be the most recent first. So you can see all the focus has been on mark making and black and white and the different media that we've used so far. So these are Helen's last ones, so you can see the bird and the collaging and the different textures. And then these ones here are the ones that Julie shared today. So just showing all the Lovely colour. So Shirley Williams. Is that Shirley Williams?
Shelley Hughes.
Shirley Hughes. That's it. Shirley Williams was a politician, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Right. So Shirley Hughes, I remember from being a kid. That's real 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
classic.
Oh, Raymond Briggs.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're just water. They're just pencils that he did those snowmen in.
Yeah.
And Klimt and some mark making and beautiful.
Good old Van Gogh.
Love him.
And I love the Japanese
Yeah.
influence. We did a for enjoyment workshop with Japan recently, and I just love that kind of influence on his work.
Yeah, it's a big influence. And we took last year's group went to Broughton House in Kakubri, which is like Hornell's house, and there's a big Japanese influence in all of those Glasgow boys as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
They went off on tour to go and study Japanese.
It had been closed down for hundreds of years because politically they wouldn't let anybody in, and then end up with all this amazing stuff.
Is that Broughton House you're talking about, Jill?
Yeah.
I was in it last year.
So that was the political.
Cornell went over to Japan for a visit.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
Japanese girls and things.
Yeah.
Geisha. Quentin Blake, a bit of a classic. Twit. Lovely. Okay, so that's have we got more examples of your work on the end of this one? No. Was it back at the beginning that we've got?
I think just at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, so let's go back to your work at the beginning. Sorry. And you've written a book as well, haven't you?
Yeah, and I just collaborated with the Inclusion Park opposite the Academy in Dumfries, Catherine Street Park. And so there is another book out now as well.
Oh wow.
So that one we're working on the kind of inclusion theme. So we got the children to come up with some ideas, and their work's in the book as well. So that's called Include Us, and this one's Oh Smelly Socks Stew. So yeah, so that keeps me out of trouble as well.
But it's a really lovely book.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you.
So this pen and ink style is your go-to really with the illustration, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I think because drawing's such a big thing for me, I can get all the drawing out of the way, and then I can be really quite free with the colour. And I don't need to stay in the lines. You know, I'm never very neat, and I like that whole kind of, you know, but not slapdash. I don't know what's a positive way to describe it, but
expressive, intuitive.
It just feels a lot more natural, you know, rather than so, you know, colour's just really just always, you know, really there and exciting. And I love, like, for when we look at the printmaking, I love Matisse's work, so we'll look at his use of wild colours as well. And I've got some kind of 60s and 70s artists that I want to show you as well for the printmaking. And again, I'm just drawn to things that are really bright and vivid. And I went through a phase when I was at college. It was actually sculpture that was my specialism, but it was very much installation work. So it was kind of, you know, anything goes type of thing. You could create a whole space, a whole room. And I was really interested in how people were using light. So I made some, you know, weird and wacky pieces that involve light as well, and incorporated color and all sorts. I remember having one made of glass, and I filled it with cherry pop, so, you know, that bright red cherry pop, you know, fizzy, and lit it from the bottom, so all the bubbles from it sounds very odd at the time, but, you know, art school.
No,
But
it sounds
you
cool.
know,
That's another
but,
one. That's another color wheel that they could do. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, getting different pops.
different food. Yeah. So yeah, colors definitely been an influence right the way through. And you know, my kind of go-to drawing technique is definitely the pen and ink, I would have thought.
What are your favorite colors at the moment?
I always tend to go back to the kind of pinks and purples. I think, you know, like foxgloves and irises, you know, if I was going to nature, bluebells, you know, that kind of idea, I think would be where I would go. But then comes to autumn. Autumn's my favorite time of the year. So I love all the warm, you know, your golds and your reds and so on. So
Lovely. Oh,
has anybody got a favorite color?
I go for pinks and purples and yeah, turquoise. I like turquoise. Bright colours.
Yeah. When I'm making art, I like lots of pinks and reds and that sort of thing. But in my clothes, I wear lots of blues and greens. I don't feel comfortable wearing the colours, wearing pink, so much sort of pink.
Yeah.
It's funny. Whereas I used to wear loads of pink.
It's really funny, isn't it?
Changes all the time.
Yeah. Danny says she's into greens as well. Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm like I end up using quite a lot of pink in my painting, but generally tend to wear navy blue. I don't paint in navy blue that much, but yeah, bright pink in my painting. Very funny. It just I'm not quite sure where it comes from, which colours we're attracted to exactly. Because
I like green, but I always think that it's not necessarily that I would always wear green, although sometimes I've got a nice green top or something. But for me, when I think about green, it makes me feel about the outdoor, think about the outdoor and freedom, and just, I don't know, it just is nice in a way that I suppose blue is supposed to be calming for your bedroom. Green kind of makes me feel like that. But then I also like all the colours of the sea too.
It'd just be interesting then this week to start paying attention where colour shows up in your life. Just, you know, and that might be a starting point for making colour swatches as well, isn't it? Just like just noticing if there's any themes or any patterns or things, you know, just different things. Or colours that you really avoid, for example, or yeah, just starting to, so rather than noticing textures and things that we've been doing quite a lot with part one, it's now trying to sort of identify your colours. So I mean, this is, like we've said at the beginning, the colour theory, colour mixing, paint is a huge subject, and you can't possibly master it in an hour and a half. Julie's done a fantastic job of breaking this all down in an hour and a half. It's quite a miracle to do that, really. So go back through the PowerPoint when we put it back in the Facebook group, and you can digest it at a bit of a slower rate. But it's a really good foundation. And then obviously the goal is that you just take this information and run with it interpret it and filter it in your own way, you know, that you build up the colors that you like, and the paint preferences, all about preferences and what you like particularly.
Can make a little mood board on, you know, like a little mood page
mood
or
board's
something.
a good idea.
Yeah, so things that you like, and I just, like you said, Liz, about noticing the colours and your choices around you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely, because it's all about your personality and your preferences, and it, you know, and same thing again, that your sketchbook, you know, will look different to the next person's, and it's really interesting. You're doing the same classes, you know, the same sessions, but you will interpret them in your own way, and that's what's going to be so fascinating to see. Cool. So I think we're at 8 o'clock now, folks. So that's us for tonight. But if there's anything else you'd just like to ask, or any other comments or feedback or anything, what you found interesting or you know, didn't expect, or what you found particularly difficult and what you think you might have to explore. Thank you, Danny. Yeah.
Sorry, Julie, what was number 2 and 3?
Number 2 and 3 of the tasks.
Yes, please. So I've got number 1, swatches of nature, and number 4, paint with new colours, and then create colour wheel. What was number 2 and 3? I sort of know what it is. Find matching paint. Yeah, that's cool.
So we were doing the tints and tones and shades were task 2. We've got our continuous colours. It's definitely all in.
Yeah, I got it. That's cool. Thank you. I thought I had it all.
Yeah,
lovely.
Yeah. Heather, have you got your hand up as well? Sorry. Yeah.
I've got 2 things. Number 1, thank you, Julie. That was wonderful. Oh, here's my wheel and my colours.
Oh,
lovely.
so neat.
That was
so
good.
neat, Heather.
Very importantly, before I go, I want to say a very, very happy big birthday to Jenny for tomorrow.
Happy
birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Jenny.
Oh, you two are birthday twins, aren't you?
Birthday twins.
We've both got a big birthday tomorrow.
Have you got a big birthday party or a big birthday surprise planned? Or
I think Jenny's family are having dinner
together.
Yeah, and I Zoe wanted to organise a big party, and I didn't think I'd cope. So we're having a Zoom party, and then I can just go to bed when I've had enough.
Yeah, sounds like a very good
And I've
plan.
crocheted hats, like those crowns you get out of crackers. I've crocheted some of those so we can all wear.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
so nice.
Well,
happy birthday to both of you for tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Julie.
Oh, bless you. So keep sharing in the Facebook group. Show us a picture of your birthdays too. That'll be cool.
Yeah, and your hats.
And your hat. Yeah, exactly. Hats and colours and all that. Brilliant. Well done, everybody.
Lovely to meet everyone. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
See you later, guys. Thank you ever so much. Bye.
Before everybody goes, Lorraine left a message saying that she'd already filled her sketchbook.
Ah, right, that's
I thought
okay.
Last year we got a second one in the second part, didn't we?
Yeah, no problem. No problem. We'll fix that, no problem.